Timeout. Let's go. Y'all ready for this? Okay. Let's do this. What's happening, everybody? You're tuned in to Timeout with Raja, where week after week we come here and give you that value that you deserve. And today we got a very special guest. Lawyer turned first generation entrepreneur. Previous ventures include a cross border distressed asset consulting firm and a ton of other failed ventures. Well, that's what entrepreneurs do, right? I mean, they go through all of these failures, and then when they reach that success, oh, it's oh so sweet. Most recently, he's been running a marketing agency that he's built over 4.5 years back. It's called Superflow.agency. Go ahead, check it out. He's launching a marketing education platform called Superflow Online. He runs private investments via 57 Capital and a non-profit for the last 5 years called Valiant Foundation. He's currently writing 2 books, an ultra runner, and the host of the Superflow podcast. Let's begin with Harlaksh Singh. Let's go. Hey Harlaksh, thank you so much for joining us today at Time Out with Raja. Just to start this session off really quick, as per your experience, right? What is the secret to acquire new clients and maximize reach in today's ever evolving business environment?
Um, I think that, secrets, lots of them. And more than secrets, I think people need to figure out their own customer. I think very few people actually speak to their people who they want to sell to. They keep on building in isolation, and that's something that is highly recommended when it comes to acquiring customers. Or you need to understand them. I think it's an understated. There's no hack. There's no tactic. If you understand who you're speaking to, they're very basic people, just like you and me. It's just that people don't spend enough time trying to figure out and actually have a conversation. So if you speak to people, and ask them questions and actually read between the lines, and the more you know about them, you'll be
Right.
you'll be able to figure. I feel that's the it wouldn't be a secret, but yeah, okay. For the sake of secrets, let's go for it.
Is there a silver bullet that someone can actually say, like, this is how you can actually go ahead by acquiring new clients? Because, see, in this ever evolving business environment that we're in, and especially with the entire digital, physical, all of these different techniques kind of coming in, right? Is there something that you think people are lagging nowadays and not really focusing on, which is the basics, which you just said that everybody is human, and everybody, at the end of the day, it comes to that entire way that they actually look at it and look at things. But is there that something that people are lagging, and you think that there needs to be a void that needs to be filled out there?
Yes, 100%. So I think not a silver bullet, but the game is shifting very drastically right now. We were at a stage earlier where there was lack of information. Okay, people didn't know things that, let's say, marketers knew or agencies knew, and they were keeping all of that to themselves. And now, because of information being democratized with YouTube and the internet and all of that, more people know about more stuff, right? So all the basic things are done. Now the question after this becomes very simple. Let's say, follow your own, let's say, trial and error method, or do you work with people who have done this over and over again? I think that's where the entire game is shifting. We call it the did it for you economy, which is basically that I went ahead,
Right.
I figured it out, and now let me help you figure the same thing out. And that you're seeing this everywhere, and I feel that's where everything is heading. People are tired of getting in more information. Okay, people want results now, and for results, you need proven methodologies, proven frameworks. There is no one single framework. Every strategy, every tactic is different. It's like going to the gym and having different workouts. The end result is the same, but there are different approaches to it. But definitely, for sure, there is an entire shift with this, and proven methodologies or frameworks constantly evolving, but they're still relevant, and they're here to stay.
That's what, ladies and gentlemen, what you got to understand is the reason we call this Time Out with Raja is because we talk to different people with different mindsets and different thoughts. And this is what I actually want to get in front of you, that every strategy is different. There's not one shoe fits all. There's no one size fits all, and you have to evolve and actually see what you're working with, and only then derive that particular method or the strategy. Harlaksh, let me ask you something. A lawyer turned first generation entrepreneur. You run a cross border asset consulting firm, and I've been running Superflow,
Mm,
a marketing agency built over the last 5 years,
yep.
right? Take us through this transition real quick. How did this happen? You are in the physical and in the digital world, in both forces. So something that's very diversified, right? What keeps you so diversified, and how do you manage to get into so many areas?
I don't think any of us plan all of these things. They happen,
Mhm.
and there's the same thing. Same thing with me. I got into law with a very faint idea of what I wanted to do in life, and along the way figured out that law is not for me. And as soon as I realized that and knew that very early on, I started to spend a lot of time doing things that were not going to end up me being a lawyer, but actually end up doing something of my own. And then from there, it's just been different. So of course, the cross border investing from there's been lots of that. Wasn't my actual first business. My first business
Okay.
was an astroturf I invested in with a few friends of mine in Pune. That was for football, and that's how I got started off. Yeah, it's a lot of trial and error. I think from my end at least, I keep on scratching my own itch all the time, and so I came across another opportunity like cross border investing. So I got into that. Spent a lot of time doing that for a few years, and there've been lots of ventures in between. I think I sent you
Mhm.
an intro on the email where I just said a bunch of ventures, bunch of failed ventures.
Yeah, man. I didn't even want to go through those ventures because I'm like, man, there's so much. Like, this is like a Wikipedia page right now, but I can't, go through that entire thing
Exactly,
because that'll take the entire podcast time
hundred
right now,
percent,
So,
100%.
and I'm sure you got a bunch of things you got to do as well. But
Yes.
we all talk about these success stories, right, man?
Mm.
Like, I started from 1 rupee and made like a million or whatever. But tell me some of the failures that you kind of met in life, and you're like, man, this is going to help me hustle harder and do better. And next time I'm going to take this and learn from it. Is there anything like that?
Okay, so I'm gonna drop a simple way, a more counterintuitive way of looking at this. Every single time I've actually thought about my failure has been uh, not good for me. Okay, so every
Okay.
single time I've actually not thought about the failure and just moved on and done something, it's been much better. So I feel
But do you take a failure as a learning lesson rather than looking at it as a failure?
that's exactly what I'm trying to say. As soon as I start giving it importance, I lose my touch. Yeah, I
Okay.
lose myself, because what I'm trying to do is
Mhm.
I'm trying to analyze something which absolutely does not deserve my attention so much. I can learn from it, the lesson I can learn from it, but as soon as you start getting into this entire labeling of failure, you're just going to put yourself back. I don't know how many years. So my learning over the years is don't focus on the failures; they're not relevant overall. It's something that it's a result, it's an outcome, and you can learn from them. But the more you try to sort of, let's say, juice out the
Dissect it and go
yeah.
within and figure it out and go into that rabbit hole trying to understand that thing. Guys, that's what I kind of try and tell you guys all the time. Polish your mindset. You got to understand who you are rather than trying to understand what anybody else is doing. Your own steps in your own life is what you got to try and pull that out. Every person is individually, gifted to a certain mindset. Go ahead and use your full potential rather than what it is. This method works for Harlaksh. For me, I kind of try to go deeper, not within that entire failure, but within that lesson, and understand what little tweak I could have possibly made, and it could have come out into a different thing. So, yeah, that's a very good perspective to actually see from your side, right? Um, Harlaksh, just really dwelling into something that is really close to us and how we got connected, the
Mm.
X90, right? The Superflow X90. But on an average, a very intelligent human being, I think, told me on an average, a person buys 30 courses a year.
Yeah, I read that
I don't
somewhere as well.
maybe even that guy read it somewhere
All
else,
right.
which is you,
Sure,
right?
sure.
So the coaching industry, is that in a bubble? Or is it here to stay? The industry is reportedly $15 billion in 2019, and I'm talking pre-pandemic numbers.
Yep. Okay. So the question is on the industry itself, or you're talking about, let's say, the average person buying 30 courses. What's the specific
Buying
question about?
30 courses, and does this make it into a bubble in itself because the entire industry is getting so big and big and big? Or do you think it's here, is it here to stay, or is it something that's here today, gone tomorrow?
Raja, let's look at it differently. Okay. For both of us, from our point of view, if you're not in a bubble, then you should find one. Okay.
Yeah.
That's the way to think about it. Because if you
Time out, time out, time out, guys. If you're not in a bubble, Go find a bubble and get into it, because you're not going to make money otherwise. Why are you trying to do this? You're trying to hustle hard, make that buck. So let's go. Yeah, go ahead, man. I usually do these timeout sessions because we get so many words, right? Like that just keep flowing. And right now, what you just said, if you're not in a bubble, get yourself in a damn bubble, inflate that, and get out in the right time. You
I
don't
feel
want to wait till the bubble pops.
Yeah, I mean, just to clarify on that as well. But so the point is, you want something which is growing all the time, or at least growing, in terms of a trend. Typically happens with something which is early on. So, for example, if you're talking about coaching, not every part of coaching is actually going to be growing right now. Right. For example, let's say if you talk about life coaching and this or that, it's a very generalized, commoditized thing. I can get it anywhere. But if you get into coaching around, like say, for example, how do you grow your let's say social presence using Pinterest or Facebook ads, which is new to people, right?
Sure.
These are areas which are still new. So there are very few people who do these. For example, how do you grow your podcast? How do you, like,
Correct.
we were discussing sales closing and all of these things. So the things which are new to people generally require a lot of education, which means a lot of more people want to know about it. NFTs or Bitcoin or crypto and all of these, and you probably went through a bunch of material,
Hmm.
over so many times.
Hmm.
So I think it's going to come down to you trying to identifying and knowing your market, but you got to get out of yourself. I think a lot of people just live in their heads, and don't
Yeah,
actually go out there and participate in the market and find the markets. And I think there is this thing that I'm going to make my product and people will come. That does not happen. But it's not that. It's just that you got to find markets, and market selection is a big factor. So
that's
definitely
correct.
don't be part of, if you look around and nothing is improving, no new innovation is happening, no other people are doing anything new, you should run from that place, and find a place where exciting new things, confusing things are happening, so you can clarify it for people.
So, yeah, so just to understand, are you the guy who says the riches are in the niches, and do you kind of find and try to pinpoint that niche and trying to get into it, basically?
Okay, so from a business building point of view, I don't. I try to typically, see what opportunities in front of me, and then try to build on top of that, rather than specifically going on looking for things. But when it comes to investing, that is absolutely the mindset that one needs to have. And so, if you're looking at it from an investment point of view, absolutely you need to identify markets that were emerging. And if you're looking at it from a point of view of building a business, then it's a very different approach. You're trying to find an existing market which is proven to work, and then you're trying to move,
Right.
maybe innovate a little bit, maybe not, depending on the demand and supply of that market. So I think it's very contextual, depending on what you're trying to do with all of this.
Okay, okay. Just trying to understand your perspective. How do you see this entire coaching industry in the global perspective and in the Indian market perspective, right? Because we all know that India is about the numbers game, about the quantity and all of that type of stuff, right? Like, for example, a Spotify in America would be $10 a month, wherein a Spotify in India is like $15 a year. So
Mm.
that ticket size, but it all comes down to numbers and profits and all of that type of stuff. So what do you kind of see the global perspective and the Indian market perspective when it comes to coaching or training or any of these online industries that are really booming right now?
Okay, so this has been around forever, guys. The point is, like, for example, Coursera or Udemy, or all of these, they've been around. Courses are forever. They've been around forever. Earlier used to be seminars and used to be events that people went to. Back in, let's say, in fact, if you go back and look at, every single person had a coach and a consultant and all of that. Even if you go back to the Roman Empire, the guy who's heading, the emperor of Rome also has advisors. Yeah, so it's been around. One person can't do everything. The question, I think, for
Yeah, I like the way you see the perspective that everything is literally is what it is. It just kind of come through in the new garment of a new outfit of different things, right? It is literally what it was back in the day as well, but now it just come into a different outfit and a garment. It's literally the same thing, but the transformation of it and how information wants to be free and it just wants to kind of travel as a whole.
yeah,
Is that how you kind of view it as well?
I think once you start understanding marketing at a deeper level, you start to figure out that everything that you see today is mostly a reframe of what has already happened before. Okay, so if you talk
Okay.
about, for
Yeah.
example, high ticket coaching, that is a derivative of something that is already there. It's just a rename for, or a reconditioned way of, or a reframing of how to do things. So very few little, like, in terms of, like, let's say, breakthrough innovation per se happens very little in the market overall. If you
Hmm.
talk about, like, true either technology oriented or regulatory oriented, otherwise typically, most of the stuff that you see in the market is a reframe. And so I mean, from that perspective, once you understand that, then you know that, okay, you can use that to your advantage when you present your offer or your services to the market. Okay, one thing, Raja, that everybody needs to keep in mind is, as soon as somebody hears about what you do, okay, and they immediately in their mind go into this thing that, oh, that I know about. Yeah, as soon as they think
Uh-huh.
like that,
Yeah.
you've already lost the deal. So, for example, if I say I
Correct.
design logos, and if the guy already knows 20 other people who design logos, I'm already a commodity in the market. Yeah. And
That's correct.
it's great for me to get like 5 deals on like small logo designs, etc. But now, let's shift that perspective. And then that's why the entire shift from logo design to branded entity happened. Yeah. Because everybody figured that, okay,
Right. Right.
from a packaging perspective. And now from branded entity design, now it's moving to, let's say, brand strategy, and now it moves to something. So apart from the core actual utility of what you do, there's a lot of reframing that is happening all the time. Okay,
Right.
with all this, and people need to keep that in mind. That if for example, if you're talking about coaches, if you tell me that you're a life coach, you're already a commodity in my head. Yeah, because I've
That's
already heard
correct.
of 20,000 other people who do life coaching or any other kind of coaching. So the question,
What makes your service different from what I'm kind of going to get in the outer market that's very easily available? Is that what you're trying to say?
I think there's a so one is a utility question, which is what can your coaching do, and the other is a positioning question, which is what kind of a coach are you in terms of have I heard of that before? And I think there's a surprise element, there's a refreshing element, and this is something that you see a lot. I'll give an example of this. So if you're a corporate coach or a career coach, this is like a career coach is something that you hear about. Okay,
Right.
and now if you change that to I help you negotiate your salary better. Like I'll help you make money. Like in terms of so you are a career coach, but you're not parenting the person. Okay, you're actually
That's correct.
breaking it down further and
You're
saying,
narrowing it down and actually hitting that specific area that needs more, understanding about basically.
but
Yeah, I
it's
got that.
but it's
Yeah,
refreshing. Yeah, so the point is most people have not probably heard of that. They're like, oh, I can actually negotiate a 30% higher salary, and there's somebody who can help me do that and prepare me for it. That is something which is much more. So it's not just the niching down and calling it words. It's utility plus how you frame it. Okay, so I feel people sometimes go into a lot of words but don't have utility. And some people who have a lot of utility still call it, let's say, a very let's say generic vague word. So I think there needs to be a balance of both on this front.
got it. Got it. Got it. Yeah, that makes sense. Now, let's get back to the entire perspective of the global and the Indian
Mm,
market perspective in terms of buying, selling, courses, education, online understanding, or whatever you want to kind of call it, right?
sure.
How do you see compare both markets? If I have to just, on a whiteboard in front of you, put Indian market and the global market. And do you think America is the most developed market? If yes, because we don't see too much from the other different continents, right? There may be, but we don't see that mass number. Maybe because the others aren't really concentrating too much into it. What do you have to answer in both these thoughts?
I think it depends on what you're trying to build. You could be. I've seen people who've built a very good niche, sort of, let's say, domestic audience within India. I've seen people who've gone a bit global as well. Raja, it all comes down to outcome. Okay, that is the entire
That's
focus
correct.
of the venture that we have and what we're doing, and that's what we recommend to everybody. It's going to come down to outcome. The packaging does not matter. I'm actually going to give you a very very simple example here, which is let's say I have let's say I bet a lot of money, okay, on let's say a football outcome. Okay, let's say I say, okay, Manchester United is going to win 5-0 against some other team, for example. Okay,
Right.
and
Right.
I give you that ticket, okay, and I say that, Raja, 100% this is the result. Okay, if not, then you can give me the ticket back and no worries to you. But if we win, okay, let's say you make $100 million or something like that. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
are
Mm-hmm.
you going to start checking the color of the ticket, Raja? Are you going to start looking at the font of the ticket, or are you just going to take the ticket and keep it, to cash in on it?
Mm,
Yeah,
mm,
you're
I'm going to keep the ticket and cash in on it.
exactly.
Absolutely. That's right.
Exactly. So what everybody does, Raja, is focus on the packaging. Everybody focuses on the appearance. Everybody focuses on the container. That, oh, do I need 20 hours of coaching, or do I need to give them 7 modules or 5 modules and this and that? But how does that matter, boss? The point is, can you give them the outcome? Ultimately
Hmm.
it's going to come down to the outcome. When you say that you're a career coach, what the hell does it mean? When you say that
That's
you're
right.
when you say you're, let's say, a sales coach or any other kind of coach, consultant, anything, even if you're a business, yeah, you could be an agency, you could be a sales closer, you could be anybody. Question is, it's going to come down to outcome. Okay, that's it.
That's right.
And faster
Hmm.
you and the faster you recognize and learn that, yeah, and start applying that sort of, let's say, benchmark, the faster you are going to succeed with things. I think a lot of people spend too much time on the decoration stuff, yeah, that okay, the video needs to look like this needs to happen like this, the Instagram caption needs to look like this, what is the perfect hashtag, etc. But none of that anyway matters, because the outcome is not clear. So I think
Right.
I think whether it's US, whether it's India, whether it's global or local or anything, keep it simple, guys. Just focus on the outcome. And then people will come to you from different parts of the world, from your place. All of that should be not the way to look at it. It should be that okay, I can deliver X outcome, and then cool, let's go and find people who can benefit from it. That's the approach.
Absolutely. Got it. Got it. As per you, give me 3 points that you would like to give the newbies who are trying to step into the digital marketing space. There's so many people who would want to just get into this area, right? And especially because of the entire information age that we are in.
Can you help
The
me
young
out?
kids.
Yeah, can you help me out with, like, what do you mean when you say digital marketing? Is this person selling digital marketing services, or is this person somebody who's using ads and stuff to market their business? Which one is it?
You selling the digital marketing services, and that's how they kind of start, and then they kind of venture into the other areas, right? So the younger kids that we're kind of talking about, who follow us and follow our podcast, who want to understand about the digital marketing services to begin with.
Okay, so I mean, to keep it again very simple, yeah, it's going to come down to outcome. I'm going to continue with that point because that's what it is. If you're saying you're going to give somebody, let's say, digital marketing services, who are you giving digital marketing services to? So, for example, let's say a question you could ask yourself is this, let's say, a local business, for example, let's say a dentist,
Mm,
yeah. So what does the
right.
dentist want? The dentist maybe wants more patients, okay, or maybe they want higher quality patients or something like that. Okay, so now you have now you have your outcome in place. That okay, can I use my Facebook ad skills, or any other kind of skills with regards to digital marketing, to be able to get them those results? And I think as soon as somebody is able to simplify it to that point, yeah, that I help, let's say, dentists or XYZ get, let's say, ABC result using Facebook ads or Instagram ads or something like that. Now they're able to frame it in a simplified manner. Okay,
Right.
unless you can get that clear. Okay, there's no point in spending any time and buying any courses or doing anything in digital marketing. You have no place here. But you need
Got
you
it.
need to spend enough time trying to simplify and identify that sentence, and sort of filling it up with your thing. Immediately, next thing that people ask as soon as you say something like this is, okay, what niche should I get into? Okay, uh, and this is again, they spend, like, another few months trying to figure out a niche and this and that. Okay, cool. Start whatever is in front of you, guys. Okay, research on it. See what you've seen around. Can you identify people? Do you understand, like, going back to my first point that I said, that do you understand your end customer enough? If you don't, then just go and spend time. If you want to go for
Right.
dentist, go to your own dentist and ask your dentist. If you're going to let's say, going to serve legal people with something, go and ask a lawyer. I feel that that simple piece does not happen. There's a lot of courses, researching on Google, watching a ton of YouTube videos. None of that is actually going to help you at the end of the day. It improves a little bit of your understanding and speaking the language, but you have to go and actually speak to the end customer. Also keep it very simple. That, like, the third point would be that you don't need 1000 clients. Okay, you just need, like,
Right.
if you need two clients, then just focus on two clients. You don't have to go and build a Twitter profile with 10,000 followers to get two clients. Okay,
Yeah.
you can just figure out what I said in the first point, which is, this is what I can help you with, and then figure out and go and speak to those people. And in the third point, just go and do it for people around you, which is maybe one or two people. I think a lot of people get started with digital marketing wrong. They don't understand that it's like a lawyer, doctor, engineer, accountant that is doing a service. They think that they have to go big on Instagram, YouTube, etc. That's not the case. I know more people
Right.
under 200 followers. Some of them are not even on Twitter and Instagram and all that, who make much more money than all these people around. So you got to keep keep it in perspective, that if you're looking for two
Yeah,
clients.
but I just think it adds to the value of the identity of who you are, no, in the long run.
So I feel,
And for even people to understand who you are, and people to kind of get to know you and your brand a little more, and especially if you're trying to develop and grow your brand a little
okay, so
in the entire area.
depends on what you're trying to do. Like I said, if you're a like in context, Raja, if you're somebody who's trying to sell digital marketing services, how does it matter for you to get your first two clients if you're on social or not? You can get them the result.
Correct.
You just
Yeah.
need to.
Yeah. But eventually, you would have to make that transition to kind of help yourself also to become a certain brand identity. I'm sure you would want to grow with the entire space
It's an
growing in itself.
advantage. It's an advantage. I think the question here is, can you get sales or results without it?
That is right.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I think it's
Absolutely.
contextual. In some industries, you get rewarded a lot more. In other industries, you don't.
That's
You
right.
also have some added advantage over other people if you are. But again, you got to you got to look at it from a perspective of what you're trying to achieve. Okay.
That's right.
I know a lot of people who spend 3 years, 2 years just waiting for followers, building up that follower count without building the business. And I feel that's where they
Uh,
go wrong. Is the business
yeah.
is the
Yeah.
core,
Yeah.
and then this is something that you do along the
Correct.
way.
You get down with your core and then look at the fueling factors, as they kind of say, right?
Yep.
So let's talk about the elephant in the room. This is the timeout moment that everybody's kind of waiting for, right?
Go for it.
Paid ads, are they effective? I'm sure they are effective, but why are humans so afraid of paid ads, man? Like, what's kind of happening in that entire area?
I think it's okay. So paid ads is.
Is it also because people think there's too much of things to do into it and stuff like that, or why are people, in a space where they just are kind of like paid ads? It looks different, It's looks like Halloween. In a Halloween, I can dress up as a paid ad and I'll get more views on me.
Okay. So I think a lot of people, human beings, Raja, have a tendency to want a guarantee on everything. Yeah.
That's right. Return on investments, is that what we're kind of talking about, or it's just like guarantee?
Yeah, I think what happens is that we want security in some form, or we always, as humans, want to go towards something on those lines, and without really understanding what we're doing, we just want a blanket guarantee on everything. Whereas
Hmm.
deep down, everybody knows that there is no such thing. Yeah, and that's the irony of it. So when it comes to paid ads, you actually got to look at it from a
Right.
very simplified business perspective. Okay, there is a cost of acquiring a customer. Every business
Correct.
has a cost of acquiring a customer. There is no single
Hmm.
business on the planet which does not have a cost, a definite cost of acquiring a customer. Okay. Once you
Right.
know what your cost of acquiring customer is, okay, you're immediately then trying to figure out, how do I, okay, show this offer or show this ad to as many people as possible. I'll give you an
Hmm.
example of this, and actually give you a very tangible example in terms of, let's say,
Right.
coaching or consulting. Okay,
Sure.
let's talk about consulting. Let's say, Raja, let's say you can help somebody make, let's say, 10 lakhs or 20 lakhs or whatever, using a skill set that they can learn from either you or somebody else or whatever. Okay, that could be sales or emceeing or whatever. Okay, now, once you know that the person can make, let's say, 5 or 10 lakhs per sale, or even if it's 1 lakh per sale, let's just take a simple number of, every time
Sure.
they go and sell something, it's 1 lakh per consulting package, for example. Now, question is, how much can they spend to acquire the customer? So let's look at it from that perspective. That, let's say they
Okay.
spend 5,000 rupees in acquiring that customer. They just made 95,000 in profit.
Okay.
Okay. Now, the
That's right.
question that
That's right.
immediately comes to mind is, why would you only show that to one person? You would want to show it to, Raja, you tell me,
Mhm.
how many people?
Right. Okay. Sure. I'd love to show it to a number of people, like say about 10, 20, 50. I would love to grow it in numbers because that also grows my product at the end of the day. And I don't have to duplicate my product, especially if it's online as services.
Yep.
You know, multiple people can access it at multiple times and consume it at the same time as
So,
well.
so let's take it forward. Yeah. So if you spend 1 hour telling me about your offer, and you spend 5,000 rupees in convincing me, or selling it to me, and I paid you the 1 lakh, you made 95,000 in profit. Now, what if you showed, instead of just me, another 100,000 people? Yeah.
Right. Okay.
You're making
Hmm.
95,000 of profit. Now, of course, not everyone's going to buy off that 90. Let's say
Sure.
the
Sure.
50, 100,000 people you show it to. But let's say you figure out a conversion rate. Let's say you figure
Uh huh.
out that every 100 people you show it to, okay, let's say 10 people buy. Let's look at like or let's look at an conversion rate of, let's say, 2%. So let's say only two people bought it. Okay, and you
Okay.
showed it to 100 people. And to show it to 100 people, it costs you, let's say, 50,000. Or even if it costs you 1 lakh to show it to, let's say, 100 people, and only two people bought
Right.
a 1 lakh each pack, that's still 2 lakhs in revenue.
That's still a 2x on your entire investment as a whole,
Yes. So
basically.
once you understand your numbers when it comes to ads, yeah, it's just a question then of scaling it up. It's just a question of then being able to
Okay.
understand that what if I, instead of showing
And
it to
further
100
understanding
people,
and refining.
yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, I feel all of that. Once you're making a profit of a lakh on on your sale, you don't really care about optimizing beyond the point. Yeah, but that's the approach that I always take to paid ads. Is okay, cool. If I'm making, let's say, a lakh on spending, let's say, 10,000 bucks, why do I care if the 10,000 becomes 15,000? It doesn't. I mean, that's the way I operate my business. It doesn't really matter, because I can continue to make more money, and I can now not worry about the optimizing, and all of that stuff. So optimizing is great, but I just feel you got to know your numbers first, Raja, to uncomplicate the entire, demystify this entire elephant in the room. Ads is only going to amplify, and let's say, your numbers at the core. So
Right.
you need to know, what your core numbers are, how much does it cost you to acquire a customer, what's your conversion rate. And if you don't have those numbers and you're trying paid ads for the first time, give it a shot at, let's say, $1 a day or $2 a day or something like that, just to get your basic numbers going, just to get, some understanding of, are people enough buying, enough people buying all of whatever you're saying. Is it resonating? Are you reaching the right audience? You can test all that for a very little amount. It's the greatest time in history to ever try paid ads. This was never possible.
Absolutely.
This was never possible
Absolutely.
ever. I mean, if we look back in 1970s, 80s, 90s, even in 2000s, this is only possible now, is because, advertising is democratized. So I feel if you're a business and you're not putting aside a little bit of a budget every day, just to figure out if you can do paid ads or something, I just feel you're missing out on so many opportunities right now, which are affordable for you to experiment with.
All right, that's very well said. Timeout moment, everybody. I mean, that's what we do here at Timeout with Raja, right? We give you knowledge that you can absorb, understand. Stuff like this is not going to be taught to you in school. And by the time they teach you this in school, it's going to be 2 decades down. So you might as well listen to us and share it with the people that you care. So, anyway, the Raja method, what is it? See it in the description below. That's a quick plug in before we actually move into some more questions that we love to answer, right? So, Harlaksh, tell me, as per you, the real grind and the hustle and the real solid stuff, right? That goes behind building a solid brand or a product. Just nutshell it real quick in a quick answer.
Education.
Uh,
Education.
All right.
Okay, that's the one word
All
you
right.
need to keep in mind. That whoever you're trying to, let's say, sell to, or whoever you're trying to communicate with, what is the level of education about you? What is the level of education about the industry, about the product,
Hmm.
about what is happening in that industry, the pricing, the positioning, the options. Once you start looking at everything around that, you'll start to identify how you need to position, what you need to put out. There are certain industries, for example, that require a lot of education. Yeah, if for
Right.
example, let's say, if somebody's going in for a dental surgery or any kind of medical procedure, yeah, they're going to spend a lot of the time on Google, and going through YouTube videos and all of that, just trying to research as much as possible. But there are other things, like, for example, buying something of Amazon, which is just a book, and you want to improve a little bit of your understanding of business, so you go to a top 10 book list and you just buy. There are two different levels of decision making that are happening, and the one thing that's common between both is the level of education. Yeah, how
Right.
educated is somebody about that offer when it comes to, let's say, a surgery, versus somebody who's just buying a book. And in a nutshell, all of this is going to come down to education. Like, if I know Raja is somebody who's done, let's say, $20,000 worth of a deal like yesterday, and today is going into a half a million deal, etc., my education, my level of understanding of you, people also talk about it as awareness. I feel education is a good word, because I now know about Raja much more. Yeah,
Right.
I'll care about him much more. So I'm sure, like, the email that I sent you about me with regards to, let's say, a little bit of intro gets you better informed about me, rather than, let's say, you just giving a random intro from looking at my Twitter or Instagram. So
Absolutely. Yeah.
education is the key, when it comes to building a personal brand. You're educating your audience about you, you're educating your audience, or people who either have met you or haven't met you yet, about what you do and what you can do for them.
So, I mean, I'm sure, like, a man is known by the company he keeps, right? So, I'm sure you hang around with a lot of entrepreneurs yourself because you're an entrepreneur and you understand the mind state of an entrepreneur. They come in different shapes, sizes, colors, variations, different languages, skills. But what is that one common trait between all of these guys that you actually can be like, man, that is that one thing that I see in a lot of entrepreneurs?
Oh,
Is there something?
okay, so I actually avoid that. So, for example, if I actually avoid that with regards to, let's say, looking for something common. I don't look for anything, Raja. That's the point.
Like, for example, every athlete has a certain drive towards their sport. You understand what I'm talking about? A
I,
passion or a
I don't.
drive or a
I know what you're
ambition.
talking about.
So,
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. I'm actually taking the anti position on that. I'm
okay.
I'm I'm
Yeah,
saying you don't need to find a trait of somebody else. All you need to do
right.
is find yourself. Okay, if
That's
you
correct.
if you can
Absolutely.
if you can find yourself, you don't have to go and wear a tie like Jeff Bezos or this and that and some senior executive somewhere and this and that. You don't need to copy anybody. Yeah, you need to
Got
find
it.
yourself and be yourself, and you'll be fine. I think this is just to for the people who think a little bit more scientifically about things. This is something called causation versus correlation. Okay,
Hmm.
Elon Musk will go and launch some rocket somewhere. Okay, what you're going to look at on stage when he's presenting that is what clothes he's wearing. There
That's right.
is it a causation that he's wearing those clothes, and because of the clothes that he's wearing that the rocket launch? No. Is it a correlation? Yes. Yeah, so what you do have to start to fine tune, and if you want to ask me, let's say, or if I was to answer that question for all entrepreneurs that let's say I spend time with, this is one thing that they understand very clearly: is correlation and causation are two different things. You
Hmm.
don't have to mimic somebody else's successful trait. You
Absolutely.
need to find,
Absolutely.
yeah, you need to find your own. And the more you practice, or the more you start living your own self, rather than trying to mirror and position, the more you do that, the more successful you're going to be. This entire thing of, oh, Bill Gates is reading 50 books and your average CEO reads one book, something like that. And the point is, the CEO doesn't have to worry about invoicing or bills or going up and showing up for 4 hours of work, etc., etc. The CEO has time, okay, because there are other people who are taking care of the work that needs to be done. Okay,
That's right.
you do
And that is because the CEO has put in those hours. They've already gone through that process in a way
that.
and they've built an entire thing. And now they can be in a position where they can buy hours from others so they can grow in another space. It's
Exactly.
all about time versus money, right? Like, what are you actually ready to spend? Are you ready to spend that time or are you ready to spend that money? And that's what it kind of boils down to. And that's why you look at people even at the higher ranks where they are CEOs or whoever, founders, they're still looking to grow as a person and find that next level of kind of scaling up. That's pretty interesting, man. What made you move from like a law background? Lawyers make a lot of money, dude. Like, you're not motivated by money, are you?
No, I'm not.
What's happening?
No, I'm not. So I
Hmm.
use it as a tool to do whatever I want to do.
So money starts with MO and motivation starts with MO, like MO. And if money is not your ammo, then what is your MO or ammo?
Okay,
Like,
cool.
what's
So
happening?
I wouldn't simplify to that point. I just feel that I feel everybody's winging it. Nobody knows.
Uh
Okay, when you talk about
huh.
no, when you talk about lawyers, I know a lot of broke lawyers. I know a lot of rich lawyers. I think it's something that I've been somebody who does not like to do things that I don't like. If I don't see myself in the future doing something, it's very hard for me to actually start doing things on a day to day level. I'll give you an example. I decided I want to run an ultra marathon, and it happened after I'd already got my anterior cruciate ligament surgery done, and I also had a herniated disc. And I was at 0 kilometers per hour, having run nothing for 2 years.
Wow.
And I said, you know what, I want to go out there, and what motivates me is going out there and running, let's say, an ultra marathon. That's something that I searched up on. I said, okay, cool. This seems like something that I feel like doing, and I'm motivated by it. So okay, cool. I decided on that day that I'm in 10 months. I'm gonna run the 57 kilometers, having not run anything on that day. Okay, I think just come back from the gym having jogged for 200 meters. Okay. And if you had asked anybody, and which I did, I asked all my physios and all these people, they're like, why are you running? What's wrong with, you should give it 1 more year and 2 years and this and that. And I decided I want to do it, and I did it. Yeah. So I ran my first 5K, my first 10K, my first 21K, all of these things. And eventually decided I want to do it. And I think all of us are like that. We decide what we want to do. Okay. And
That's right. Yeah, 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 yeah. Our brain is beautiful. It keeps these possibilities, imaginations, and some people just want to do it, and some people just want to be like, it's just another dream. Like you're dreaming for a goddamn reason, dude. Like if you're dreaming, then that is because you think there is a possibility of something around it.
Raja,
So just hustle.
I'm an explorer, Raja. That's who I am. I like to tinker with things. I like to explore. If you put me into a room and you get me
So
to
what
a
do you look at money as? You look at it like a video game where you're trying to make more coins and just go by and buy cool things within the video game of life.
okay, so I look at it as a tool to be used, something that
So the okay, so
I
like
mean, I
coins in a
respect it,
video game to just go. Yeah, absolutely. We all respect the
but
money, right? And
I don't want to get bought out by it. See, one thing that's very
right,
clear to me from the beginning is I don't want to put a price tag on my head. Okay,
that's right.
that's something which is very clear to me. Even when I have 0 rupees in
Boom.
my
Your
pocket.
head is priceless, everybody. Your head is priceless because that's the mind inside the head is what we are talking about
No, I mean
at the
the
end of
point is you can't buy me out. That's the point, Raja. That's the point. You
Mm.
know I'll decide my terms if and that's I want to play that game the longest I can. And if it comes down to the point where I have to go and work for somebody and like really do some shitty things, or things that I really don't want to do, but I should do, I'll do them. But I don't want to be bought out by someone just because they can. And I feel I want to use let's say money as a tool rather than something which is it's a means to something. It's not something that I work for. I have not never gotten up once in my life to be like today I'm going to make X amount of money. That never motivates me. It's something which is
right.
I just like to explore things and do interesting things for myself. And if that's interesting to other people, then that's great. If it's not, then that's fine as well. Everyone's doing their own thing. It's just my perspective. I just feel from a like you the question that you were asking about law never motivated me. I think I wasted 5 years of law school. I should have gone and done other things. That's my perspective on this. And that
How good were you in school though? How good were you in school?
I
Were you the guy who just like just let me just get through this thing?
my law school was like that.
Because I was the guy who was a 50% all my life till I had, and I'm like, all right, I'm just going to be right in the center. I'm just going to get the marks. I'm just going to get through because I know what I want to do, and this is not it. But when I wanted to graduate, it was something out of choice, right? So I kind of got like a nice 65, 70, and everybody in the house was like, how did you get that? You're supposed to get 50. So were you like that guy who actually dwelled into that 50 area, or were you like someone who was actually scoring high
So,
numbers?
so exactly, yeah. So I don't like that entire way of measurement. I feel
Right,
that's a very terrible way of measuring things. I know of my friends who have been 90. This is a settled argument at this point of time. I feel that okay,
right.
you're not really going anywhere with the percentage that you score. So I feel there is this entire concept in human beings, Raja, and I'm sure this is something that people in who are going to listen to this are also going to let's say they probably follow in their life, which is wrong. And I'm going to say it is wrong. Is why do you want to be normal? Okay, what is this concept?
Absolutely.
What is this concept of that? Oh, there is this mid path. Oh, there is this normal path of what is normal path? There is nothing called as a normal path. So, for example, if you talk about law, the subjects in law, Raja, we gave 80 plus exams in 5 years. Okay, are you trying to tell me that you want
Mm.
to know all 80 of those subjects? No, there were some subjects that were not even included in those 80 exams that where you can make a lot of money in the legal industry. Okay, so
Right, right,
it's a question
right.
of I think in general, are you going to allow these external things to label?
Man, this kind of gets me into another thought. Like the education industry or the system has kind of been the same for over a century. At the end of the day, there needs to be an evolution within it, in a way or the other.
No,
So
no, no, no.
yeah,
That's a different way, Raja. I'll tell you what's happening within that. I think everyone is trying to change the education industry. What they don't realize is you can just build another parallel one.
right. Yeah, that's a very good way of saying it. Absolutely. Yeah,
This
yeah,
is not
yeah,
this is not
yeah.
something that you have to
And
be
somewhere
forced
deep
by.
down, and somewhere deep down, I think the reason Harlaksh said, I don't want to be a lawyer anymore is because like he looked at the judge and like, you're gonna judge me? Go for it. And
I mean,
I'm
listen,
not
I
even
mean,
going to
listen,
deal with it, Jatin. Get out of
listen,
here.
I did two internships, Raja. One was in the Bombay High Court, and the other one was at a private bank. The first one that I went to was a private bank, a large one, and you know the I it was very fascinating to me because I used to go in at 10 a.m. or 11 a.m. or something like that and finish my work, let's say by 2 p.m. or something, and then sit on the person's head and ask for more work. Yeah, and they would
Yeah.
struggle to give me work, and so because I wasn't interested in wasting my time, so what I did was I just went back home and went to play football or whatever else. Yeah, and then the next day I came, I spent another 2 3 hours. But my point was, why are we spending all this time at work if there is no work to be done? Yeah, and
Right.
I think a lot of all of this comes, to let's say, I think people accept what their situation is, and they're like, oh no, this is what it is. Yeah, this is how it's supposed to be. This is how life is supposed to be. Oh, how can you think of anything other than this? Of course, when I'm saying all this, I'm privileged enough to not worry about basics. Not worry about meal. A meal for lunch or dinner, etc.
Sure.
So I recognize that maybe somebody who's listening is not from that background, but for people who are from that background, what are you doing here? I mean, so I went to the high court, spent some time there, listened to what was happening. Raja, even today you spend people spend 6 hours waiting for their turn to come, to argue some shit
Wow.
which is only going to be adjourned to next week. I can tell you for a fact that if a lawyer is listening to this, they'll agree to me, okay, they'll agree on this, that most of legal work is not actually legal work. It's just procedural work. It is just you going in there, just keep on pushing the case forward. Either you are trying to do that or the other person is trying to do that. So I think as soon as I saw that, I figured that, what, I don't think I don't enjoy that. I want to solve
Right.
things. I want to get into things which are difficult to do, okay, but it's actually enjoyable to do them. Why not? So right now, for
Right.
example, where
Right.
we see the entire game going, with regards to education, like you said, we think that everybody is trying to get into this entire thing of making products, okay, or learning skills. But there's another wave of things coming up, which is what we are preparing for. Is all these people need to go out there and sell their skills. All these people need to go out there and sell their products. And so we are actually preparing, let's say, with Superflow. This is what we're doing now. We're getting resources in place so that people can go in and monetize and sell more stuff. And instead of trying to change the education industry or trying to change anything, we're just building our own.
Absolutely. So let me just quickly ask you. We just got like two more questions to put in. One, let's actually talk about the Superflow X90, right?
Hmm.
And what is it trying to solve out here, and how is it different from the other existing products in the market already?
Okay, Superflow. So for people who don't know, of course, we haven't really formally, let's say this is more of a pre-launch than a launch, really. But it's a method. Okay, it's a sequence of steps that you take to sell your service or your product, for you to get like clients and customers and all of that on, you can call it on autopilot or on an ongoing basis. And it's a method of doing something. It's a sequence of steps. We've come up with the method, we've created it, we've used it, help people use it in multiple different industries. And it's a method that somebody who's trying to sell any of these things can take, deploy, and is closer to actually getting, let's say, 90%, 80% closer to actually getting clients and customers, rather than if they try to do it themselves or ran Facebook ads and all of that. So it's that.
Are you taking them through the entire process
So yeah,
as well?
we have that option as part of the tier. They can, overall. What we're doing right now is launching a book, so more people can get the method in their hands. And once they have a proven system, Raja, okay, it saves them a lot of time. It saves them a lot of effort, in trying to do this trial and error kind of thing. Which is, if I, for example, Raja, want to become an MC and I try to do it myself, rather than asking Raja, and Raja would give me, let's say, 20 things, or let's say a sequence of things to do. Who do you think is going to do better in terms of, like, or who do you think is going to do faster? Yeah, and it's going to be somebody who speaks to you, somebody
That's
who's
right.
speaking to somebody who's already done it, or no, like, let's say, has a system that allows them to do it. So that's exactly what we're doing. We can help them implement it as well, absolutely. But we're not worried. We just want to get the methodism, in the hands of as many people as possible, so they can do it themselves. And if they need help, we are available. If they don't need a help, that is not something that we worry about. It's just that more people need to stop wasting time on listening to 3 hour Joe Rogan podcast, and actually get to work.
Yeah, just listen to an hour of us. We are putting out all these nuggets and bullets out there that you're not even going to get anywhere else. It's only with Time Out with Raja where we get different types of people with a different mindset, and everyone's unique in their own selves, right? Like this episode today that we had with Harlaksh right here, Mr. Superflow himself. He flowed superbly on the microphone, and that is how a closer closes, ladies and gentlemen. Wasn't that smooth enough to try and close this entire episode? Absolutely. So the Raja method of high ticket closing, right out there for you. Go get it, dude. Like if you don't want to get it, I don't know what you're doing with it. Go ahead, get the Superflow X90. Why? Because you need to know how to go ahead with these methods, right? If you don't have the method to the madness, then what do you have the madness for? It's not laid out there for you in that way. Harlaksh, so before we wind up today, one timeout tip for anyone and everyone out there to time out and unwind. What do you suggest they need to do?
Raja, they need to drop the fear. Okay, and
Boom.
I'm gonna make that a question more than a tip. And what are you so afraid of? Okay, and I
Mhm.
think if you sit back after this podcast or anything, and keep on asking yourself every time you think about posting something, doing something, if you're getting up in the morning and you fear things so much that it's crippling you down to the point where you just, like, I don't know, ignore yourself and don't really, let's say, go after things. What are you doing? Yeah, so I feel a lot of people are operating from a place of fear, and they need to ask themselves what are they afraid of. And if they can just write it down, if they can just write it down somewhere, that, oh, you know what, I'm afraid of these things, they'll be able to go much further ahead with whatever they're doing. So one tip is actually one question. It's, what are you afraid of? And whatever it is, to take it forward, whatever it is, it's not worth your time, it's not worth your life. Okay, you're
That's right.
wasting your life on living your fears. Don't do that, guys. Make sure that you ask yourself that question, write it down, and then start going after it.
Guys, you see what happened? I asked the man, how do you unwind? Give me a timeout tip. And he said, ask yourself, what are you afraid of? This man doesn't take timeouts. He takes timeouts to even go ahead and question himself. And that is what we call the timeout today. All right, everybody. It's your favorite closer, Raja. I'm going to see you soon in the next episode of Timeout with someone as interesting as Harlaksh, because that's what we do. We come here every week. We introduce you to some of the favorite minds of the country and across the world, and we let you understand them. And thank you so much, Harlaksh, for actually coming through today and letting us in into your thoughts and helping us understand a lot of things that people will gain value out of. And I'm sure this would add so much into their entire life and space. All right, everybody. Cheers. Peace out. Stay safe. Raja. Bye.